thank you for making it possible. So yeah, so as I was saying, just in case you had me mute, my name is Alberto Pellicer, and I work at the Denver Public Library. I work at the Early Learning Department. Our department is very specialized. We do mostly outreach. We don't have hours at the desk. Before I start talking and explaining this presentation, the way I thought it can work is I have an agenda, the dividing the different sections that we are gonna talk about. It looks like really long, but it is not at all. And um, after I'm finished on each slide, you can ask questions and we can talk about it. But if I see that it's something that we are going to touch later, I will just refer to your question in the following section. So a little bit of history. So Fauna Story started in like our Fauna Story started in 2003. To make this presentation, I also talked to people in rural libraries in Colorado. So our system right now uses Fauna Story with 9 lines, and one of them is a voicemail. So that's what we have right now. And let's start with the general overview. Okay, and yeah, and then my two colleagues are gonna help me track the question just in case I miss any. But yeah, let's start. So to begin with, raise your hand, and that's the thing up here with the person raising their hand. Raise your hand if you have some sort of Fauna Story or phone line in your system.
And if you can't find the raise a hand, it's in the upper kind of left middle of the screen.
You
Yeah,
can
or
just
you can
write it.
write it. Either way.
Yes. Next to the microphone, I see one. I see one person that says yes. Okay. Not yet. That's the best answer. Not yet. That's I like that. Mm-hmm. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So thank you for that. So let's start helping you on how to get it done. So a ver. There you go. So the general overview. So yeah, we started in 2003. Uh, um, it started very, very, very small, just with one line in English, and then a little over time, we expanded. First, we added another English line, and then when I got on board, we added the Spanish line that it was just the stories. Then we had some sort of combination. So the fourth line was something that we call just fun, and it was songs or riddles or rhymes in Spanish or in English. And then we those kids that started using Fona Story, they kept on growing. So we heard from families that why went on we have something for older kids. So that's when we expanded to more options. So until 2017, we had English preschool, Spanish preschool, English song, Spanish song, and then we had English stories for kindergarten to fifth grade and English stories to sixth to eighth grade. In 2017, we wanted to offer more options, so we look into how to expand it, how to add more Spanish and more languages. Our original idea was cutting the older kids because we were like, who's really listening? But when we check our stats, that until 2017 we had to go through a long process to check every stat. We realized that was the line that most people were calling, and apparently it's because a lot of teachers use it for instructional purposes that I'll talk about later. So at the moment in 2020, we have English preschool, Spanish song, English song, kinder to fifth English, sixth to eighth English, Amharic, That's the language that they speak in Ethiopia. Vietnamese traditional English, that it's like traditional stories or new classics like Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus would be there, but also like The Little Red Hen or Red Riding Hood or things like that. And then one thing that we started 2 years ago is the voicemail, where people can call and leave feedback for their stories, or they can leave messages, or they can ask for requests. That I'll talk about it later. So the stories and songs that we have, they change weekly, unless there's someone missing or someone forgot or things like that. But normally every 7 days, the stories and songs change, and we'll talk about that and how is that related to copyright and how that help us go around that. It's multilingual, so we try to serve the 4 languages that are most spoken in the city and county of Denver. Multi-purpose, as in, I'll talk about this later also, but some people just call and listen. You just listen to the story. Some people, someone said lost audio. Is that only one person? Uh, we're good? All right. So, okay. So different people use it in different ways. I'll talk about that later, of different ideas that people have suggested and that we are using, or we know that people are using. And then it bridges the digital divide. The biggest thing about this program is that you don't need to have internet, as long as you have a phone and a regular, pretty basic phone plan. You can just call and use it as many times as you want. You can use it 24/7. You can use it when you're waiting somewhere, or if your kid needs something to do, or if you want to have some sort of different activity. It's an activity that you can easily use everywhere. Um, Now, the part that you are all signing in for, technology and price. So we just use good old phones. I'm going to try to explain it in a way that it makes sense, but we are basically recording voicemail greetings. So when people call your systems, and if they want to talk to different branches or to different people, or when you call any service, any 1-800, you can click 1 for Spanish, 2 for English, and so on. That's how it's done. So you don't need any special software, as long as your system has some sort of a phone tree system where there are voicemails available. That's the only thing that you really need. Obviously, it's gonna depend on the provider that you have, and on the plan that you have, how that would look like and how much access to that you have. In our case, until we switch to voice over IP, and I think we use ShoreTel, that's like the company that runs our phones. uh, we had to go through lots of people in the city to be able to get the stats and to be able to change passwords and things like that. But the idea is really basic. Technically, you could be able to do it in any phone, any regular phone system. It's gonna depend on the plan. Any questions about this? Like, it makes sense what a phone tree or recording a voicemail is. Is someone typing? Well, they finish typing. I'll keep on talking. So for the yeah, it is really easy. It's the I didn't come up with the idea, but the it's really basic. You just need to have a phone line. Now, as far as prices, I have a lot of people asking how much is a line and things like that. It's gonna depend on your plan. Obviously, we are a very big city, so our prices when you get a line might not be the same. But think that getting one line, you can get 9 options, actually 10 options if you use 0 for also like a line. So that should be one price, that it should be around $200. That's what I've been told that we pay, but it's a one time only. Once you buy that line, you have it. Or if you have random lines that the city where you work are not using, or the system that you work are not using, yes, we use a dedicated line, 720-865-8500. That's, you call, and that it gives you the 10 options for phone and story. Any other questions about this? So the first step for you, yes, stats. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about the stats in a second. That might be the trickiest thing of depending on your provider. So I was talking with my colleague from Sterling Public Library, the one from the rural library that I talk with, and they have to go through the provider every time that they want to get the stats. In our case, until 2-3 years ago, it was the same thing. We had to go through the 112 number of the city to be able to get those stats. But now it's just like, when they install your phones in your system, you have some sort of, software on the computer that lets you see how many people call certain line. I'll talk about it, the specific data that we get, but yes, we have access to that. No worries, I'm the expert on jumping ahead. And yeah, the information that you would need, and this is very important. You would need them to give you the extension. So let's say that you want to do two things: one English poetry and one English narrative or something like that. So you would need an extension. So you will have the line, let's call it 720-865-8500. That's what we have. And then the extension that would refer to the first recording, you would need that information, and then the pin or password to be able to record, to give it to your staff so they can record that voicemail. So imagine that you manage 10 different lines, so you will need 10 different extensions and 10 passwords. Extension doesn't mean paying more. Extension just means the number that you put to be able to record that voicemail. But that's something that you can talk with your IT team. The good thing about having a extension and passwords is that you can share it, and people don't have to be in the building to do it. You can do it from any phone in the world, as long as you have those extension and those passwords. And the other cool thing is that you could trust people that don't work at the library. So you could trust a guest to use it, or you could trust a volunteer to use it. And since it's a unique user and password, if they decided to not do what they are supposed to, it would be really easy to change and leave that person out of the system. It's not like they don't have access to change it. Only the IT person or whoever is in charge would have access to that. Okay. All right. Logistics. I don't see anybody to do Phone Story. We do it all through Google Docs. The way that we do it is the staff that it's interested. We have our goals and stuff like that decided for the following year. So after our staff agrees with their supervisor that that's something that they wanna use part of their time on, they sign up. We have a form that says which things you wanna do. So some people say no, I would never think, or some people say, well, I can speak Spanish, so I will do only Spanish. You can organize that as you please in a Google form or any kind of document that you use internally for people to sign up and be interested. And once they do that, once you have all the people that decided to help you, what I do is I create a master calendar for each week. So you would have the first week of January, John is gonna read English preschool, Mary is gonna read Spanish preschool, and so on. So as many extensions as you have, I assign someone to each week, and then the whole calendar is shared ahead of time, so people know that like the third week of November is gonna be this person or the other person. And then the assignment, we change the stories Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's because we have a lot of people that work 20-hour or 30-hour shift, or people that work on the weekends. So in order to make it more flexible, so more people can help and more people can participate. So Tuesday, Wednesday is when people can record. The recording goes straight to live. So as soon as you do your voicemail, if you accept the recording, that goes live. So there's no uploading or anything like that. I'll talk about that in a second in the copyright section, but that is one of the great things of this system. Like, you don't have access, and nobody can have access to those files. They get recorded as a voicemail. There's no MP3, MP4, or any kind of audio file that anybody can get and use or sell or reproduce. It's just voicemail for good or for bad. You you record it, and then the week after, when the next person records on your slot, your story gets deleted forever and ever. The only way that you know what was recorded is because we keep track, so we don't end up reading "Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus" every single week. But that's pretty much the way that we do it. Uh, I send every Monday a weekly reminder, and that's one of the the attachments that you see, the phone reminder webinar document. That one says, "Hey, this week you are the phone story star," people like that, and it says, "This is your assignment. These are the instructions of how to do it," and then some reminders like make sure that you put your name on the list of recordings so we know what you recorded, and then remind volunteers or people that you run into that they can participate if they wanted to, and then some tips and tricks on how to promote it on social media or among their friends and things like that. Yeah, the phone story star, it's very cheesy. So yeah, the tips and trick document. Sometimes we have like a one-time person that wants to do it. I'll go over that in a second, but it's always good to have a reminder. It has worked really well now with COVID-19 because people are at home and they have books, or they feel like they don't have books, so you can remind them that you know it can be an ebook because people are not looking at you, so you can really do any stories that you run into, and you can have for older kids we do a lot of cliffhangers and or like a passage, or we do like one chapter this week or half a chapter, and so on. So also the staff that reads, it's not only librarians or people that have some sort of heavy training on story time. Everybody can participate. We just trust that if they're interested, they can sign up for our storytime trainings, or at all of our branches there's someone that has been doing it for years. So, and you can always call and listen to see what it looks like. So we don't have an in-person training. We have like the generic story times and then these tips and tricks. Okay. All right. Sorry, Edna. And yeah, yeah. There's no informal person training, and almost every branch has a reader, so that's a good thing to sell when we need money for new lines or things like that, because it's a very cross departmental service. And yeah, it's really simple access. So that's something that really has had with the COVID-19. Everybody can do it from their house. So you don't have to be at the branch, or you don't have to be in a specific phone or in a specific line to do it. Any questions about logistics? Yes, you can use it as a prize or as a punishment, but yeah, you can you can decide who can read what. And then in what we have is I work at the early learning department. So if someone has like a last minute issue that cannot record or is having issues or something, my team we cover up, or someone at the branch that the person that cannot do it works, they can also cover for them. Good question, Erica. Yes, you have. This is gonna depend on your plan. I've seen several different ones, but ours, the voicemail goes up to 5 minutes. Uh, but since we also have like a hello, thank you for calling for a story, and then at the end there's like a thank you, and sometimes we have like reminders or little announcements like, oh, you like this book, make sure you can go to the library and pick it up, or remember we are still doing summer of adventure or winter of reading, or any special programs that you have going on, or other things that you want to cross promote. Like right now we are promoting the story times that we do on YouTube live, but 5 minutes is the time that you have since you click record till it stops. That's in our system. It's something that it can change. I haven't done research, but probably if you pay more, probably have longer. But yeah, so it is done ahead of time, or it gets so it gets posted immediately. So when you get assigned, we say you have to record between Tuesday and Wednesday. So when on Tuesday at 3 p.m. someone records, it will tell you, like every voicemail system, it says, is this what you want people to hear? And you say yes, and then it goes live immediately. What other questions you have? Calendars, like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about that on promotion. So if you wait a sec, I'll tell you where we put it. But it is posted in way less places than you would think. It's not something that we super promote with big banners or anything like that, but it is mostly everywhere. Yes, you can. You can. You, sorry. No, you don't have to be sorry. Yes, you can record as you need it. So in any regular voicemail, it will tell you, do you want to record this or do you want to make it live? Yeah, there's no no, yeah, there's no beep. It just tells you like the beep, the it's a really good question. The reader, so when you are recording, the message or the prompt says leave your message after the tone, but nobody listens to the tone. Yeah, copyright is the next, I think is the next slide or in 2 slides. Yeah, no, you don't get a busy signal. Everybody can call at the same time. Yes, every person is responsible for what they read. We have suggestions on the kinds of books, but we don't say what you have to read, with the only exception that I'll talk about it in a second, of when we have a special request. So our voicemail, people call and they say, "Oh, it's my son's birthday. I would like you to read this," or "My son is obsessed with dinosaurs," or "We really like horses," or this week we have someone that said, "Can you record Fireworks by Katy Perry?" So then I put together my team and then we try to make it happen. Sometimes we cheat a little bit, like if we don't have. So right now, if someone says I need a book about Spider-Man, we might not have a book about Spider-Man, but we can read a book about spiders. So we kind of make up some story and we read about it, and then I call the family and say, "Hey, this week is your phone story request." So then they get really excited. All right, I'm gonna move on. I can respond to the questions. I see like several of you typing, but I move on because for the sake of time. And yeah, we also accept ebooks, oral stories, and others. Some of the problems that we have had is that people don't have materials at home during these times. So I've been able to either point them at YouTube and things like that, where the book you can read it over, or I'm I have typed some short stories for them or things like that. I have time. Don't worry, I'm time. But yeah, let's move on. Thank you. So staff involvement. So how much time does it take? We Most of the people that are assigned, they have 6 to 8 slots a year. So that's like once every like 12 weeks, 8 weeks, depending on the sections that you want to read, the slots that you want to read. If you speak a language, you get to read more because we don't have that many people that speak Amharic and Vietnamese. So those people, I think they do it every 4 or 5 weeks. The average that time that people report, it's 15 minutes of prep time and recording. So we in the regular times we work in a library, so we have books everywhere, and you can plan ahead. So if you know that you're gonna be reading in June, you could put your book in on the Google Doc, and people know that that book is gonna be read, so people don't take it away or steal it or whatever. We have about 60 people doing it. And then as far as the stuff goes, they also promote it on their own branches and social media. So, oh, this week, Mr. So-and-so is going to be reading. Make sure you don't miss. Call this number or things like that. And yeah, 6 to 8 per person. So Alberto Peiser, that's me. In a year, I would be assigned 8 times. So I would probably read like the second week of January, and then I don't read again till like mid-April, and then I don't read again till June, and then I don't read again till October, and then somewhere in December, more or less. And some people read less, some people read more, depending on if someone said if one year we have only 5 people willing to sing, so those people would be singing more. If one year we have 10 people that are okay singing, so you would read or sing less. So it's based on the availability of staff. But in the last years, it has played out that 6 to 8 times is like the average. In the calendar, we have people mark as volunteers to cover. So if one week you cannot do it, you contact me, and then I can just looking at the calendar right away, I can see who is available that week to cover. Yep, I am a non-librarian. I'm not interested in being a librarian. This is run by non-librarians. Yes, everybody. We have clerks, we have shelvers, we have custodians. As long as you have a phone number and an enthusiastic way of reading, you are in. Yes, that's the next one. Woohoo! You got it, Karen. Was the Karen? Guest readers and celebrities. Well, this has been my work since we shut down the library in March. So sometimes we have a special guest. Until very recently, until 2 years ago, that was like a really weird thing. We would have like an author coming to do like a book presentation or some sort of programming, and we would ask them, and they would say yes. Like we had Eric Litwin did one, and then the guy from Jellyfish and something something. As I said, I'm not a librarian, so I always forget these people. But that was like a really, hey, someone is in the building. Do you want to record? And they would say yes. But we never had anything very organized until 2 years ago, where we started collaborating with performing arts uh, celebrities in the city of Denver. So we had the orchestra over at the Central Library and things like that. So what we did is like the 2 weeks before we had the symphony director record, or we have musicians record with instruments and tell the stories that they were gonna perform or things like that. But it has been most of the times those celebrities approach us, and that had it has no difference with regular readers. We just provide them with the instructions and the password and extension. And sometimes we go to their location to help them with that, or maybe they say, "Oh, can you bring me the book that you think would be great?" So we help them, but other times it's just them doing it. Um, so far we have had that was the most famous person that did it in the city, like the symphony director. Or I guess Edith Ligwin is more famous. But then we had this week, if you call, we have the Denver Performing Arts staff doing it, and they are really, really good, really, really exciting. And then next week, our biggest stars ever, we're gonna have the Rockies. So several Rockies players, the baseball, three of them are gonna be reading different stories in Spanish and in English, and they are the ones that approach us, and we just coordinate it. I give them some suggestions for books, and they are the ones gonna pick and read. Yep, the Rockies, and then after that, I think it's gonna be whatever number news, 7 news, 9 news, one of those. Also, we have a lot of people that are asking now to be on this. We also have Cali Fajardo. It's a pretty well-known author nowadays, also at least in Colorado. So we have different people asking, and I just have to coordinate and make sure that they understand what we are doing, and we don't pay them. And as I said, most of the times they are the ones approaching us. We also have guest readers, as in people that have been using it with their kids and they want to volunteer, or we have a couple of people from the Department of Education in Colorado that volunteer. Some of the employees from the Rockies, they also have show interest in helping. So yeah, no, I never heard of any of these Rockies players either, but but they play baseball and they are famous and people like it. So it's gonna be three very good players. So it's they really got involved. It's not the random person that never gets to pitch or bat. All right. So let's do this. Uh, your other big question, fair use. As I said, I'm not a librarian, and I got on board of this once it had been going on for more than 10 years. But what I've been told by my supervisors and by everybody that is in charge of these things at the library is because of the nature of the font system, nothing gets really stored forever and it cannot be shared or distributed outside of Fauna Story, that we never had any issues with that. It is a temporary thing by definition, so nothing stays anywhere forever in Fauna Story. We never had a copyright complaint in 18 years. And let me see if there's nothing else. Oops, no. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so the recordings don't get saved at all. So once, like after 6-7 days, that gets deleted. It doesn't get saved anywhere. We have some of the people that volunteered, they were thinking that they had to come over like a recording studio and they are like, I have one at home and things like that. No, it's just good old voicemail. There's no file, there's nothing anywhere that can be put anywhere. Yes, exactly. It's like a re-recording. Yep. One week I have this, I feel this way, I record this voicemail. The next week we have a different voicemail. So that there's not a file. Like you cannot have access to any of that. Like even if I want it, if I say, oh, I'm gonna keep this file that this person did, and then in 50 years when this person is famous, I'm gonna sell it or something. No, there's no access to those files. It's not Nolan Arenado, but that's the one I knew. It's not what's his name? Blackmon is not that one either. It's the best player in the Rockies, right? I've been told. Any other questions about fair use? Because that's the one that we get a lot. I don't see anybody typing. Any questions? You're the ones with your masters on library. So ask me. See, Melissa and Killian are typing. Multiple attendees are typing. Okay, and when you read a book, you read the entire book, right? I'm about to talk about that, but the main idea we talk about the time. You have 5 minutes. So if it's a picture book, yes, you have plenty of time to read a picture book. If we are reading for older kids, so when we do like the not that much the kinder to fifth, because those ones are like beginner readers, so you have time. But when you do like 6 to 8, if it's a chapter book, we read a passage, or we do like a meaningful part of the book, or like some sort of cliffhanger, or poetry, or things like that. And did you share a phone number so we can listen? Yeah, it's at the beginning of the presentation and at the end, but it's 720-865-8500. Ding. Yes, there you go. Okay, what are ways that we are promoting it during these times? So I'll talk about that when we talk about promotion, but in general, we always have promoting it in person, and it is printed on all our materials, like things that we pass to families. But also we have a great connections with community. So the first day that the schools and libraries were closed, the library, I mean the the schools contact us for resources, and that one is the first one that we had ready to go. And since then, our calls have grown like incredibly. Like we were averaging 3,000, and last month we got 5,200. You can see the stats. Thank you for building the stats. Yeah, we have. You have the stats in one of the documents that I share. And someone said, why 5 minutes? It's just like what the phone company allows us to do. But I'm sure if you talk with them, you can see if they give you more time, but probably for more money. But that's what it always have been. Yes. let me move on with the for you, since I see that you are moving on with your questions. Statistics and impact, and then uh, we can talk about that. So, but for adults, we have the week after the COVID-19, something that we have been thinking about, but we never did. We have something called Lead Line, and that's 720-865-2003. That you can call and you can hear stories for adults in Spanish, English, and poetry for adults, and for in Spanish and in English. So poetry and narrative, English and Spanish. So we have that, and yeah. So statistics and impact. So normally we had 3,000 calls per month since we start adding Phona Story as one of the things that you can do for summer of reading or winter of reading. So it will be like, oh, like create, read, do things during the summer, but listening to stories, coming up with pictures of the story, or quizzing each other about the story and things like that. That was things suggested through our summer of adventure. It was one of the activities that you could do to win prizes or to keep on moving on the ladder of summer of adventure. So since 2-3 years ago, those numbers became 3,000 as the new normal, and then numbers are pretty similar depending on the older patterns. Yes, it's 720-865-2003. There you go. It's called lit line. If you Google lit line, the first 50 hits, it's a one line, because we just, like, people went crazy when we did it. No problem. You're welcome. So the numbers are pretty similar among lines. You would think that which teenager calls the older kids line, but what our suspicion is, and what people tell us, is that younger kids really think that older teenager line is gonna be, I don't know, something very crazy, very insane. So so they try to listen to those stories. So we see like a pretty good average of numbers on all the lines. So it's not like, oh, nobody calls this line or nobody calls the other line. We have pretty steady numbers in most of the lines. Vietnamese and Hamari have grown exponentially. So in a year, we went from the 10 cousins of the person recording to now we're in 150 a month. So that's our numbers. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, and then impact. Oops, keep on clicking the arrow. We can track. So you were asking before what our stats look like. We can track per line and per date, and in that date you can see the day and month. So I can go on the stats from March, and I can see who called on Tuesday, March 11th, and how long they were on the line, and then I can see who used each extension. So I can see how many people called the Spanish preschool, I can see how many people called the English traditional, I can see how many people called the Hamaric, and then at the end it gives you the total. So it's pretty cool. I'm not a super expert on data, but we have people that are in our system. So my colleague Kirsten, she now has done it, so it pulls automatically from the phone system and it compares previous weeks. One of the limitations that the stats have, at least with the system that we use, is that you can only go 1 year back. So if I wanted to compare today, like what is today, April 23rd 2020 to April 23rd 2019, today is the last day I can do it. Like tomorrow, that data won't be available to me. So we save those documents and enter them in our stats and things like that. Any questions? Because I'm very excited to talk about the next one. I've been having dreams about talking about this in public. No, you don't get that. So you can only see the phone number of the person that calls if they leave a voicemail. If they're just calling the extension, no, we don't have access to those numbers. Totally private. Like we don't get to see that. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but that's not something that we have to try. I guess it will depend on the plan that you have and things like that, but I don't think there's an easy direct way to do it. All right, so talk about the voicemails. So a couple of years ago, we we kept on talking about, like the numbers are great, but is it only numbers we worry about? We want to hear those stories of impact that people were telling us when we were doing presentations around the city. I'm talking about Phone Story and how much they like it. So we decided to, when we did the last expansion, we decided to leave one of the options as a straight voicemail that says, if you want to leave feedback or make a request, you can leave your message here. And that's when I realized that there's a lot of dust in my office. I kept on getting teary eyes, crying all the time because we got the most beautiful stories. We had kids calling saying that they have been listening to us for like years. We had families saying that, oh, it's a great service, that they love, they don't have to be plugged to internet. We have people saying that they read every night before going to bed, but Wednesdays is phone story night instead of reading. We have teachers saying that they use it as a prompt question, so they will listen to it and then send the number home and with a couple of questions. We have people that say they use it to practice their English, people that use it to practice their Spanish, people that are really mean that halfway the story they hang up and people hang up and then they say, oh, what do you think is going to be the end? So they have like that prediction skills or trying to draw your favorite part. So it's not just sitting down and listening to the story. People came up with ideas of using our service that are really, really creative. We have people from all over the country calling. I can see that because of the when they leave a voicemail, you can see their phone number. I mean, I know that a lot of people move to Colorado, but uh, when I call them to say thank you or things like that, they tell you where they are or they say where they live and things like that. We have someone call in, and these are the best. Someone call in, and I thought it was just like a prank call. I couldn't understand what they were saying, and I got three like that, like within 30 seconds, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is annoying. And then the fourth call from the same number, it was a speech therapist saying that her client was calling to say thank you. So things like that, that are really interesting. Did you see? Now you made me cry. Do you get the number? No. And can two people record books for different age groups at the same time? Yeah, you mean like if John can be reading in the same week preschool English and preschool Spanish, for example? Yes, that's totally okay. You just dial two different extensions when you do your voicemail. We try to have that variety, so it is not normal that the same person will record twice in the same week, but sometimes happens if it's maybe two different languages. Like if I speak Spanish and English, I could do both, and technically not a lot of people are listening to those two, although they might. Any questions about the statistics or impact? I'm gonna move to feedback. So yeah, this is what I just talked about. I'm the only one. Yeah. So it's two. Yes, it's two. Can someone record for children at the same time someone else is recording for those? Yeah, it's totally two different lines. It's like you are recording in your house your voicemail, and your mom is in her house recording her voicemail. It's like two separate things. They have their own line. They have their own voicemail and all that stuff. It's not nothing to do one line with the other, and they are not. You cannot connect. You cannot jump from phone story for kids to lead line for adults in the same call. You will have to dial a different number to jump to that. So feedback. This is what I just explained. I got ahead of myself. So those are the heartwarming stories. And I am the one that get to actually contact those listeners to tell them, oh, thank you, or like next week we will be reading the Lorax for your kid, or all those specialist stories that we receive. And we fulfill the request 100% of the time, one way or another. As I said, this week someone requested Fireworks by Katy Perry. That's gonna be my challenge for the day. Any questions about feedback? We're doing great. We are doing great. We have 15 minutes, and I think it's a couple of slides. All right, so I'm gonna move on. So promotion. So we have, and those links work if you click on them. But we have multilingual business cards. So they look like on the picture. So the first one is Amharic, then you have English, you have Vietnamese, and then you have Spanish, and on the back they are in English. So you have both options there, and it's really simple. We used to have the cards that had the actual extension to which story you got, but once we jumped from 4 to 10, it was too wordy. And then if we had made like 1,000 of them and then we change it, those things would be obsolete. So that's why we made it like pretty generic, and when you call, you just follow along the different options. We have also that number with our Storytime flyer, so it's down, so I couldn't put the link because of the COVID-19. We don't have it up in our website, but you can look at it on the last page of the what I linked there as the Engage magazine. Is basically like a calendar that says on Monday we have the story times at these places, these times, and these locations. So at the bottom says can't make it to story time. You can listen to it at this number. So the kids website has we do blogs on activities and things that you could be doing at home or with your kids. So we have several articles that refer to Fona's story, and then the one that we have promoted, like the one that Fona's story got the word out the most, is at our outreach events. We pass these cards. We talk about it as a way of using technology in a way that is engaging with families and children, and at the schools and stuff like that, they're like really cool flashy cards to have on your table. So when you tell someone, you know that you can call 24/7, it doesn't matter if it's like while the Broncos are playing or while the Patriots are losing or while this or that. So we that's like a very easy sell. Yes, one more than one person can listen to the same line at the same time. Yes. Uh, and then Storytime Live. Those are our YouTube Storytime Live that we do on YouTube Monday to Friday at 9, 10, at 11. And at the end, we tell people, oh, if you couldn't make it on the video, you can also call these numbers. Someone was saying, what about during COVID-19? How do we promote this? The 3 posts that we have done so far in our different media have like 700 shares and things like that. And then every single teacher in the city that we work with, they have promoted it. We have people asking us and thanking us and stuff like that. So it has made it to people. We have our network, my department, the early learning department. It's a mostly outreach department, so we have a lot of connections in the community without needing to put it on internet and things like that. But what we also do is we promote it in real Facebook groups instead of just our branches. So we would promote it in groups where we know there's like neighborhood groups and things like that, where we know that people will look at it and share it, and then with like community navigators and promotoras and things like that. So we get like 5,200. That's 2,200 more calls than on a regular month. And our adult storyline, the first week of being launched, I think they hit like 150 already. So people are hearing about it. Any questions about promotion? I have one more slide, and then it's questions for you. So yeah, we also, as I said before, we also promote it as one of the activities that helps you engage with the kids and helps with literacy. So we put it as an activity that you can complete for Summer of Adventure or for Winter of Reading. That those are like programs related to reading and activity and making and things like that, like ways of having fun in the community without being necessarily reading a book. So we recently, basically the week, someone is asking, do we do any mailings or now that people don't have internet? So besides those schools that have connected with the families and the district here, they did a good job sharing technology with the families and stuff like that. Besides that, the week before schools close, we had partnered with it's called the Denver Preschool Program, and it's a program that helps people to pay for preschool. And they do a lot of mailings during the year, so they had made a card, like a postcard, that had Fona story on it as well. So that's another way that people got it. And we also have we also use Bright by Text, that it's a national program where you can promote your things per zip code. Bright by Text. Someone can put the link somewhere there. Can a small library do this program? Yes, Uh, we are the Denver Public. That sounds really big, but you only need a phone line. Sterling Public Library is the rural library that I have talked with to compare, and yep, they only have one phone number and one voicemail, and you take turns to record. They have actually been doing it daily. They have 7 members in this stuff, and each day it's one person's turn, and you just record it. Yes, as long as you have a phone number, you just have to get a hand of the IT person or the phone company that you work with. All right. So the last one, outside of the phone box, I'm finding like that. So it's way more than just listening. So in that link, you have a list of things that people do, as I was mentioning before. So some people start listening and then they hang up. So you have to guess what you think is going to be the end. Or some people listen to this week's story, they write 3 questions and they send it as homework for their families. Some people use it to practice languages. Some people use it just on the back while they are at home. Some people use it every Wednesday instead of reading a book and things like that. Um, for listening, for comprehension, to practice a language. Background knowledge. So we have the truth about our traditional English is was a placeholder for other ideas that we had, and it was supposed to last for a little bit, but then we had different things coming up, and we had some plans to do a big thing about it, and then now we just stay the English one. It is not like calling it English traditional is not erasing or promoting just one culture. It's more like the idea of that background knowledge, like the people that we work with that might not be familiar with the stories that for you are really famous, like the Very Hungry Caterpillar. That's great, go America, but nobody else in the world knows about that book. So if you haven't been raised here like me or other children that we work with, it's a good way of making sure that those stories are transmitted. So that's why we have it there, and we like to do some of the twist of those. So you know that right now you have a lot of versions of like a traditional story that the end is not the one that you would expect. So we have a lot of fun doing that. Uh, Tradition and quality, yeah. So we try to use traditional as in famous books that people know, but also quality books, and we try to stay away from like a big um, like TV shows and things like that. But when people request it, we do it. No problem, Patricia. I'm almost done. And yeah, English language learners. So we have this stories in Spanish. We have that multicultural piece with Vietnamese and Amharic that people are able to access the stories in their own language, and that's like a big thing. And the cool thing is that you can use it anywhere, anytime. So if you wanted to use it for a lesson plan in your class, or if you just wanted to listen to it while you're waiting, or like if you're waiting for your something, you can always use this. To schedule the phone-in stories for small libraries, you mean like if you record it now and say to go live on certain day or certain time? I don't think that's possible because it's a voicemail, so you have to actually record it. But what you can do is you can play with the phones and say that you will record that voicemail, but you can make that voicemail live or not, depending on what you're doing. So when you record it, at least in our system, you have something called on hours and off hours. So it will be like a regular voicemail. So if someone calls to your library when it's open, it's a certain voicemail, but if someone calls to your library during closed hours, it's a different voicemail. So you could play with that. Yes, you can arrange it as you please. You can do one for a voicemail, two for stories, or you can do one for English and 7 for that. You can play with that as much as you want. It's just it looks like a Excel sheet where you can switch it, but that's IT work. All right, and that's the lead line right there. All right, so How much time between books? There's not really a time. We have we have the longest document ever since 2008. You can look at it and just do a quick Control F to see if your book is there. But you know, librarians are really into their books, so they try to be different, and we don't repeat the books that much. Only songs probably is the thing we repeat the most, but books, we don't really repeat them because there are so many good books and new books coming out and things like that. So, but there's no like a rule that I would say, oh, we read that 3 months ago. It has to be 6 months. No, you just look, and I trust this stuff. I don't really police them that much. So, questions, ask me whatever you want. You have 4 minutes. The last slide has my contact and a big thank you to all of you for listening. But yeah, if you have questions or something that is really specific, yep, dial a song. Yeah, that's a Beth Christ idea. Definitely considering that in our document. Yeah, yeah, you just do it's an Excel, so you just do Control F and you can see which document which books have been read in the past and which song. So you would just say, oh, let me see, and also the author. So if you say, let me see, when is the last Mo Williams? I think the handouts they will be part of the recording as well. I think you can access them. All right. Any other questions? Okay, about copyright info. Yes. So stop writing. The the copyright info is just because it doesn't get to be stored, so we cannot reproduce it or anything. It's like a voicemail. So that's how we go around it. Like there's no way to that you can distribute it or use it for any other thing that is not phone a story. So that's how we have been going around. The frequency, we had complaints sometimes when we don't have it, that like when a story stays in the same line for a little bit. Like sometimes I go on vacation, and since I'm from Spain, I'm out for a while, and things get a little bit messy. So people complain when we started the Vietnamese and Amharic, we were leaving them for longer, and people requested more variety. So I think once a week is good, but it's gonna depend a lot on the expectations and how you promoting it. I'm trying to get all your questions, and that will be in a job. Okay. Too much Albert to copyright. Okay, and
Jolene asks if you need to notify publishers each time you do a recording of a
any
book of
other?
theirs.
We haven't been notifying anybody for 18 years. And when we have run into the issue of, like, talking with ALA or things like that, they said that the way
And
we
so
do it, it's
just to
fine.
re-clarify, it's because it doesn't live on forever. It's kind of like a story
Any
time.
other?
Is that correct, Alberto?
Yeah, it doesn't live. Yeah, it doesn't live. It doesn't live forever, and it is like you cannot access to that. Like even if like a very famous actor did it and I wanted to get that file, it's impossible. Like the system doesn't let you. We will send a copy of the
So we
webinar.
will have it
I don't know.
posted. I
Yeah,
posted a
the
link,
the
but let me post
illustrations.
it
Yeah, that's
again.
another thing.
Where the archive is going to be. Hang on, just 1 second. Oh, did Beth
Yeah,
put it in there?
that's the link is right there. Any other questions that I missed? I want to make sure I respond to everybody.
I didn't see any other questions that got missed. I don't think.
Yeah, no. I'm just want to make sure.
So while we're waiting to see if there's any last minute questions, we just wanted to say thank you
Anybody
to
has any other
Alberto for sharing
question?
all of this great information.
Uh-huh.
Pam is asking about you just use your local phone service, correct?
No problem. My pleasure. Now I lost where the file is. Oh, here it is. Very good. This very thing. So you just go through your local phone service. Yeah, it's so the yes and no. I mean the phone service is different from the phone system. So we use, I don't know what is the phone company, but then you have, we use the phone system is ShoreTel. And that's just like the way the phones are connected to each other. So you could have Cisco, you could have ShoreTel, you could have whatever Bell. There are different companies. Any other questions? We still have 86 people. Is it now when I get to sing? No. Any other questions, even if it's really specific to you? Because I know that some people might have questions that they feel that might not apply to everybody, but I'm happy to respond since we are doing this. We had some schools, something I forgot to mention. We had some schools calling to see how we works, because they were thinking of using it as an alternative for teaching. So I have someone that teaches theater, and she wanted to, or Shakespeare was, and she wanted to to see how it works, so she could record for each extension a Shakespeare sonnet or something like that, and then the last extension would be an explanation of the activity. So then your students wouldn't need internet. So that, I thought that was like a pretty cool way of thinking. Yeah, the MP3s, copyright might be an issue, but the logistics of that, I don't even want to imagine.
I got it.
Then you will have all those great people in your
I
branch
can do
that
it.
can be, someone saying that they're looking at one company that can do MP3s. I feel like that would be a barrier, and it would avoid equity among your staff. Like, who can do it? Like, you can have a great
I just put
storyteller
my
that
email
might not be
in,
tech
so
savvy. I'm thinking of staff
yeah,
that I
if you
work
need
with
a,
that they
if
might
you
not
need
be
a
feeling
certificate,
comfortable
I
with
just
that,
put
and then
my the
being
Krieger.
able to do it from your
Yep, you
house.
can
Do
just
you have
click
to
on
use your
that and email
computer?
me, and I will send you a
Is there a
certificate probably
certificate?
by tomorrow.
No, but if you send me an email, I can make you one, I guess. You got it? Okay. You can do it? All right. Yeah. Oops. Yes, this is my email. You can contact me as much as you want. I'll count it. Okay. If you need that certificate. Mhm. Any other questions? I'm happy to respond. If we finish the webinar, I have to go and watch my kids, so please keep on asking. All right. Last chance for questions. How are your staff volunteers finding books if they don't have any at home? So you can get an e-card, so you can access to ebooks at the library. Yeah, Tumble books, although that one it's more complicated for regular books. But yeah, ebooks, and then we also encourage for oral stories. Um, Most of the people that have been assigned the last weeks, they are staff members, so they
It's
have access to books, and we have been allowed to go in the library a couple of times since we closed.
it it,
So we
it
can be
always takes a
going
while for the room
getting
to empty out, but
getting books.
I wanted to say thank you again to Alberto for providing such great information for us today.
All right, still 60 of you. Any questions? Any other ideas that you want to share or that you think or I know I feel bad like just hanging up with 60 people connected. Any question that you want to ask, or if you want to look at the PDF documents, or I don't know. No problem. We are waiting to see if anyone else has a great question. Okay, that's a good one. All right. So last question at once. Last question at two. Last question at three. So again, our phone number is 720-865-8500. That's for phone a story with for for children, and then we have the lead line that is 720-865-2003, and that one is for adults. And yeah, have a great